All right. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Spirit Speaker KC podcast. I am psychic medium Jamie Collins, and I am super excited tonight to have April Wyett with us to talk about a wide range of topics. I first met April, probably 7, 8 years ago, and had a Reiki and sound healing session with April. It's the first time that I had ever experienced a Reiki or a sound healing session. And I still remember just being like, wow, that's all I can say. One of the best night's sleeps that I ever had. I remember that. And it was kind of one of those things for me that was an experiment in a ways, because I had always been kind of skeptical of energy work, or really what does this do, and I believed in it, but I was a little bit of it. I had a healthy dose of skepticism. So it turned out to be phenomenal. I still remember April giving me, talking about my left knee, which I have chronic issues with my left knee, and she picked up on that right away. And I was like, okay, maybe this is real. So I'd like to welcome April, but I want to just read a little bit about April before we hop into the conversation. So, April Wyett is a health and wellness consultant who traded her corporate career for a mission to heal the modern epidemic of disconnection. Since 2009, she has been transforming lives through her deeply personal approach to mind body wellness, helping individuals break free from stress, tension, and emotional overwhelm. April integrates emotional intelligence, meditation, and holistic healing modalities, including biodynamic breath work and trauma release system to melt away tension, ease stress, and restore natural balance. April also has a podcast of her own called Living with Intention, where she culminates conversations with wellness pioneers, offering practical wisdom for authentic self discovery and transformation. She's the co author of the number one international best selling anthology, Moving Beyond Boxes: The Journey to Self Discovery, where she shares her insights on the ripple effect of healing, how personal transformation extends outward to create waves of positive change. Wow. Welcome, welcome, April. I'm so happy that you are here.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And you were on my show when I had it was Spirit Speaks.
Uh huh.
And actually, that's one of my top performing YouTube videos.
Oh, wow.
I think it's like
That's cool.
700 views already, you know. So,
Yeah.
it's wonderful just to kind of reciprocate, right?
Right, that's right. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Well, welcome. I'd like to start out because I know you, but I don't know a lot about you. And so, one of the things that I'm always curious about is how people got on this path. Tell me a little bit about like your childhood. Were you always into spirituality or health and wellness? Give us a little background about little April growing up. What did it look like for you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jamie, for that invitation to share a little bit deeper, right, about
Yeah.
me so people get a feel. Well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and it was on one of the San Juan Islands. And so the forest was I say my first home,
Mm,
because my home life was not safe.
mm,
And you know how they say, the wounded healer, right? We tend
mhm,
to help heal others through our own wounds and
mm.
what we've experienced in our lives. And so I grew up running in the woods, catching snakes and
Oh, wow.
and frogs, lizards, all the things, right? I love it. I still love it. My
Uh-huh.
husband cringes when I'm like, "Oh, look, a snake," and he's the one going, "No, don't touch it." And I have to be careful, right, with snakes now. Pacific Northwest, there's no poisonous snakes on the island where I was from, but
Oh, wow.
in
Oh,
drier climates, there are some
oh,
dangerous snakes out
okay.
there. But
Okay.
that was my life growing up, and I was always connected to nature. So just tuning in to nature still, that is
Mm.
how spirit speaks to me. That's how I
Okay.
connect with the divine, is through nature.
Oh, wow.
And I'm always getting like little God winks, if you will, or
Mhm.
finding feathers or hearing a bird sing, when I'm thinking about
Mhm.
certain things, or as people talk about, seeing cardinals and
Right.
thinking of loved ones. And
Yeah.
so that's how we connect, right? Is
Mhm.
through nature. And I believe that, we are so locked out of ourselves because of all the just all the technical things
Yeah.
that we are doing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that really keeps us up in our minds and heightens that fight, flight, freeze, that sympathetic nervous system, to where we
Mhm.
forget that nature is where we can receive more, really fine tune. And I want to pause right here, because this will be an edited part. Yeah. So
No, so when you're that little girl and you're in the woods and you're connecting with nature, were you sensing the universe, spirit, or was that more just an escape because, as you said, home
yeah,
wasn't safe?
yeah.
Were
It was
you
both.
kind
Yeah.
ah
Yeah, it was both. And then I couldn't understand why other people weren't interested in watching tadpoles, watching how the frogs develop, watching, I could feel the energy. I didn't know what that was at the time.
mm,
And just being in the presence, it's just the presence of
mm,
nature that is pure presence.
okay.
And that's where, I learned more about myself too. And then moving forward through Reiki, so when I became Reiki attuned, then I realized, oh, that's that connected energy that I'm feeling when I'm in nature. I felt
Mm,
the same once I was attuned to Reiki and had that connection with the life force energy, which
right,
is all around us, as you
right,
know.
right.
And that's earth and nature, that's the foundation, um,
Mm,
for us
you-
to be able to,
right.
tune into those frequencies.
Wow. Wow. And so were you out of high school, young adult when you decided to pursue what was that first experience with energy? That was the Reiki
Mm.
and was
Well, that's a really good question. I had always felt like, around different people, having feelings, sensations, and things that I just couldn't explain.
mm,
And so, as a teenager, teenagers, they're doing teenage things,
right,
right? And
right.
so my friends and I, we go to a party or something. I wasn't drinking, I'd just stand there with a solo cup. And I would watch, people and how they changed,
Oh.
energetically, how they changed physically, when they're in this environment of drinking and all that. And then it
Uh-huh.
would get to a point where I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable anymore. I think it's time to go. Like, I was really good about knowing when the right time was to leave,
Mm.
before any other shenanigans, right, would happen.
Right.
So just tuning into people, the environment, the energy, I've always been able to do that. And then also through my dreams, I call them visions.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
after I was married at a young age.
Mhm.
I was 19.
Okay.
And before that, I had, now that I think about it, I had a vision of one of my classmates that had committed suicide.
Mm.
And he came to me in one of my dreams, or I say a vision, and I could see
Right,
his
right,
aura. I could see him show up. And I was so happy to see him. And then it was like you wake up in the dream, right?
right,
And I said, Gil, why'd you do it? And because he was so happy to see me, right? To connect to somebody,
right.
right? That
Oh,
he felt
wow.
comfortable with and everything. And then he looked at me like, wow, like, you can see me and you're asking me this question. And then he just left. And I
Oh,
woke
wow.
up. Yeah, I woke up and I felt his pain. I felt the grief that he carried, the uncomfortableness, the uncertainty of who he was. He was not
Mm.
accepted as who he was back in
Mm.
the 80s.
Yeah.
And he was teased and bullied and everything. And I had no idea about that part of his life. I
Oh,
just knew that he committed suicide. And,
gotcha.
I was just shocked that my friend was gone so quickly. And then here he showed up in my vision. And so connecting that way with past loved ones, uh,
Okay.
and pets. My cat, when I had for almost 19 years, he comes and still visits me.
Wow.
It's
Oh,
so
I
fun.
bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
it's so fun to
Wow.
connect
Now,
that way.
were you friends with Gil? So you kind of seemed surprised that he came through on a visit. In the physical, y'all were friends?
Yes. So
Oh, okay.
and that was my first visit that I
Yeah.
had with anyone. He was the
Wow.
first one that came through.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
later on, when I was married, then my grandmother came through, and then,
Okay.
others that had passed, and I wasn't anticipating it. It was just they would come through.
Ah,
Mm.
okay, okay. So how those experiences being in nature with grandma, with Gil, how did that kind of transition into the Reiki or energy work? Were
Mhm.
you still your young self, or did this come on later in life?
Yes, well, my intuition and the visions progressed,
Oh,
and
wow.
then
Okay.
it wasn't until, 20 uh, 2007 that or 8, yeah, that I saw a spiritual counselor,
Oh,
and
wow.
she told me, "You'd be really good at Reiki." And I said, "What's Reiki?" We had just returned from Japan, and she said, "Well, it's a Japanese technique, and when you go to the library, because there wasn't Google back in
Right.
2007, right?"
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And she said, "You go to the library, there'll be a little book there." Exactly, of course, what she said. There was the little book,
Oh,
and I read
wow.
it, and I was like, this is me, like totally how I felt about energy and supporting people with hands on.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I got really mad, Jamie, because I had lived in Japan for a total of 10 years,
Oh, gosh.
and I
And
could have
never
gone
ran
to
across.
I could have gone to Mount Kurama. I could have,
Oh my
went
gosh.
to Usui Sensei's shrine and things. And then I thought, no, that's okay. I will go back. And actually, I will share something later about that. So
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
that's cool that you were there that 10 years. So kind of the spiritual life when you're young, a teenager, be intuitive,
mhm.
all of this. When you go to Japan for those 10 years, are you introduced or is your spiritual life
Yeah.
still with you,
Oh,
your
yes.
intuitiveness?
Actually, it amplified when I was there.
Oh,
The
wow.
reason why, and I believe this wholeheartedly, was because back then, we went there the first time in 94 through 98. We were there for 4 years the first
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
and, I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't get distracted by certain
Okay.
things, so I would, listen to music more, or I would be outside more. I would do those things, and also interacting with the Japanese, children. I taught English
Uh-huh.
to Japanese children, so children have that creative energy, right?
Yeah.
They're playful, they're
Right.
fun.
Right.
They think I'm funny because I'm American, speaking English and,
Right, right.
just having fun.
Wow.
And so that actually helped amplify it. And I truly believe that I was pre-attuned to Reiki because that tour, the 4 year, I hiked Mount Fuji.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
So yeah, I did an overnight hike. And
Okay.
so I saw the sunrise through the Torii Gate. There's a Torii Gate at the top of the mountain. And when I watched the sunrise come up through there, it was like time just stood still. And it was like you could hear a pin drop. And I
Oh,
just
wow.
felt this energy just go through me. I'm getting chills right now,
Uh-huh.
even revisiting that
Oh,
sensation.
wow.
And it was just like it just shifted something within me. And I
Oh,
believe that's when I became more spiritually minded, paying
Oh,
attention to, the mind body connection and
yes.
holistic practices. So then when I returned the second time in 2001
Mhm.
to 2007,
Mhm.
um, I would go to the shrines and temples with my Japanese friends, like for New Year's and for their holidays and things.
Oh,
And I just had this overwhelming sensation, like I arrived back home,
right,
and I
right.
would like it was huge, huge. Like I had tears in my eyes, and I didn't know why. And it was kind of like an awakening, and
Yeah.
some of the priests or monks, they would stop and they would smile at me, like they could see something.
Right. Yeah. Got
And
yeah, yeah.
Japanese friends were looking like, why are they looking at you? Because they usually just go about their business doing things.
Mhm. Oh,
And
wow.
so I believe I was pre-attuned, and my higher self, whomever
Right.
was
Yeah,
with me,
I got you.
and they're very open. They sense energies, and Buddhism, and a lot of them are also not just Buddhists, but I need to remember the word. I'll remember it in a moment.
That's okay. I
Yeah.
was just I was just thinking that when you felt like home, I was thinking it'd be really interesting, if you've ever had a previous life
Mm,
in Japan, and that's why maybe it felt like home.
mm, mm.
So you come back from there in '07. Have you started your Reiki work yet? You
Yeah.
still haven't
Yeah.
started. When did your Reiki work start after '07? After you leave Japan?
So I went to the spiritual counselor, and I think it was 07, 08,
Oh,
around
okay.
there. And then she told me about the book, and then I read it. And then shortly after, then I started searching for a Reiki master. I wanted
Mm,
to receive Reiki before I would, start practicing. I wanted to
okay.
know what that was like. And when I received my first session, kind of like what you explained, I felt very peaceful, relaxed. I even
Right.
fell asleep on the table. And when I left, the Reiki master, she had another meeting to go to. And she said, I can tell you're not grounded. You need to sit in your car. Do you have water? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And here I'm in Ventura. So it's, you drive I-5 down to where I was living, and I'm driving. And I don't do drugs. I've never done drugs, but I was literally high. Like, I was looking at the water and there were sparkles coming off I could see the energy
wow.
of the waves. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am not grounded. So I
Wow.
went very slow all the way home. But after that, I was, yes, this needs to happen. And also, this is what I do is, with anything I do it for myself first. And then it's like, wow, this is amazing. Other people need to know about this. Other people need this healing. They need ways to calm their mind, to get back in their bodies.
Right.
And so that way they can ease the tension and the overwhelm. Right. So
Yeah.
then I started my Reiki practice, and
Okay.
it wasn't until 2017 that I became a master. So I took
Okay.
it very seriously.
Oh,
I
yeah.
practiced a lot. And then Reiki is a beautiful cornerstone for any type of holistic healing. A lot of people start with Reiki because it's
Okay.
so easy and gentle.
Ah,
And
okay.
from there, that's when I went for sound healing. I became certified in sound healing with the Tibetan bowls.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, that led me to the biodynamic breath work and trauma release system, BBTRS, which I'm certified for online and in person.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for those folks who aren't quite sure what Reiki is, what it can do for us, explain to those folks who have never heard of Reiki before what it is, how it can help them. What exactly is Reiki?
Yeah. So, as I said before, it's a Japanese technique, and it was founded back in the 1920s. And what it does is it connects the practitioner or the master to life force energy. Okay. And then that practitioner or master, such as myself, is aligned with that, more
Okay.
just honed in. Everybody's aligned to it, but
Okay.
it's really the intention, right, that we set for
Okay.
healing. And it can be used, Reiki can be used to support people in person, such as you experienced,
Mm-hmm.
or even virtually online,
Oh,
because it's
wow.
energy. Just as
Okay.
you're hearing my voice right now,
Uh-huh.
that's energy.
Right.
And my clients, when I first started full-time RVing 4 years ago, they were in person. And then they said, okay, I'll try the virtual, because they really liked my style.
Right.
And they said, wow, I can't even tell the difference. This feels
Oh,
so
wow.
good. So what Reiki does is it supports mental, emotional, and physical states. And because it comes from a higher source, right? Somebody might say, oh, I have a shoulder pain,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm having something happen with my foot. Although when I'm sending Reiki, I might feel something more in their heart space,
Ah.
or maybe in their lower abdominal, if people are familiar with chakras, like maybe their
Uh-huh.
sacral space.
Okay.
And Reiki will go wherever it's needed. Okay. So when I'm supporting somebody, the only thing I think of is great intention and the highest good for Jamie. That's all I say. And
Okay.
then I focus on Reiki, sending you Reiki. So that way I don't get in the way of thinking,
Mm.
oh my gosh, Jamie has this left knee pain and she needs to remove that or anything, that gets
Uh-huh.
my own mind, my own kind of ego in the way. And so
Sure.
when I just pause and I just focus on the energy flowing and allow that to move through, because
Mm-hmm.
we are, as humans, we're a bridge for the higher
Mm-hmm.
source, as
Mm-hmm.
right? this
Mm-hmm.
is this is how we connect and
Right.
support other people in the
Right.
material world, right? And there's
Uh-huh.
a lot of people that need that more of a material, physical contact,
Uh-huh.
because that's how they want to receive healing, and that's
Ah,
perfectly fine too.
yeah. Wow.
So the benefits are really, it's about re, re retuning your nervous system.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
when your central nervous system switches from the parasympathetic, that fight, flight, freeze,
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
active, to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, that's when the body can relax. That's when our minds tend to clear a little bit more. Our breathing becomes more fluid and open and easy. And then our bodies can release the tensions bioenergetically. People
Mm-hmm.
have little twitches. They say, oh, my
Yeah.
hand was twitching, or, I felt this warm sensation in my left leg. That's the release of the energy.
Ah.
And it's about the person
Hmm.
receiving, being open, being
Okay.
receptive to it.
All
If
right.
at any time they decide not to receive Reiki, it respects free will. You know how spirit works that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
respects free will. So if at any time they choose not to receive, then they won't, you
What do
know.
you mean? What do you mean by when they choose not to receive? You mean if they're in a session with you and they decide not I'm kind of confused because
Yeah.
if they're in the session, they must want the Reiki. But what
Yes.
do you mean by then during a session you've had experience where people don't want to receive it?
I've only had it one time where a person, and it wasn't their choice. They were gifted the Reiki session. And they
Oh,
were,
okay.
as you said, skeptical, right? And that
Okay.
was so funny in the beginning when you're like, "What is this Reiki?" I'm kind of skeptical, right? But you were
Right.
open, right? You
Right.
were open to
Yes.
it. So the person showed up and they said point blank, "I'm a little skeptic about this. I
Oh.
was gifted this because my friend or my whoever it was thought I
Yeah.
needed this. So I don't want to waste their money." So you hear the language, right?
Oh.
You hear the language of that.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
told them, I said, that's okay. You showed up and there must be a reason. So are you open to receive Reiki? And they said, I'll try. So they
Okay.
laid on the table, and then halfway through, they were like, "Oh, I'm good now. I'm
Oh.
done." And I said,
Okay.
"Oh, okay, that's fine." I respect people's, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely. Yeah.
boundaries, and
Yeah.
if they're not willing to receive or being open to it at that point, it doesn't mean, forever. No, they
Right.
won't receive
Right.
it. Then so be it, right? I'm not here to
Okay.
push
Right.
or talk somebody into it. You have to
Yes.
want
Yes.
it and want to have that experience for yourself. So
Well,
that's the only time that that's a good question
hey,
too,
yeah,
Jamie.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, all these years and
Yep.
only one person. Can you get the benefits from one session?
Mm.
Uh, or is this something you need to do on a regular basis or in 3 sessions, 5 sessions, however
Mm.
many?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on the individual and the situation they're
Ah,
in.
okay.
So I recommend, I sell packages of 4.
Uh-huh.
So whether they choose to do that weekly, whether they choose to do it monthly,
Oh, okay. Okay.
that's fine. Although, if you have it weekly, then it's also our attention on our intention of wanting healing, of
Ah,
wanting to receive. Then the energies kind of stay with them a little bit longer because they're
okay.
doing it back to back and they feel the benefits
Ah.
more. And I mean, they feel the benefits after one session for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But
I
a
yeah, I
consecutive
can attest.
sessions, depending on what the situation is, if they
Right.
just are recovering from surgery, or maybe they felt a loss, they have some grief they're working through.
Okay.
Maybe, they have had a big shift in their life and they feel that they need to be more centered. These are
Mm,
just a few examples of
okay.
how Reiki can help support. Yeah.
Okay. And they don't need to be in person. Someone
Yeah.
could book with you for Zoom or on the phone. It okay. How long does
Yeah.
that session last or that healing? So if someone goes to you, I get a session, and is it good for a week? Will I feel that for a month? Or again, is that on an individual basis?
Yes, it's on an individual basis, although I would say, and I tell all my clients, for the next at least 24 hours, you're going to still
Mm,
feel the effects of this. And it's usually a more relaxed, peaceful state.
ah,
It's not
yeah.
a high energy and, or it could be, it depends on the
Yeah,
person's,
yeah, yeah,
intention of receiving, but it's
yeah,
more to relax. It's more to be more present
yeah. That's how
and,
I felt.
yeah,
Yeah.
release those tensions and that overwhelm. And it also detoxifies. So
Oh,
I tell my clients also to rehydrate, because when
oh.
you're working in the nervous system, especially the parasympathetic nervous system, it is about releasing, relaxing. This is where your cells get cleaned out,
Mm,
so, and also helping to really solidify this session. I also talk about journaling.
mhm.
So journal about why you wanted the session, what was coming up for you. Journal
Ah,
about what you felt or what you experienced during your session. People have experienced messages coming through, or
oh.
they've seen colors, or they've fallen asleep, you know,
Oh.
because they're so relaxed. And
Wow.
that's perfectly fine too, and them knowing that it's still continuing for 24 to 48 hours,
Okay.
then continuing to journal about little things that come up that, oh, I hadn't experienced that before. I never thought of my situation in this certain way. I
Ah,
had a client who she was an exec, okay, and she was under a lot of pressure, and there were people getting fired above her, and they were talking about moving locations, and she just wanted Reiki to help ease her mind and body
ah,
because she didn't feel safe in that environment.
okay.
And after her 4 sessions, she was like, I just walk in the office and I'm like, I'm here, and it's like I can watch other people and notice, right? When
Huh.
they are agitated, I don't have to respond to that.
Wow.
I can still be in my container of safety and not become reactionary like them.
Okay.
So
That's
I
good.
really appreciated her feedback and sharing
Yes.
that, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening, in the home. That's what's happening. We become so reactionary. We pick up
Yeah.
on other people's energy.
Yes.
We have this neurosensory around
Yeah.
us, or the
Yeah.
aura, to where we're filters, and if we're not aware, then we're going to take on that energy.
Oh. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How did you go? What interested you in the Tibetan, the sound healing? How did you, is that a natural progression from the Reiki? I love sound
Yes.
healing as well. Talk about relaxing. Is
Mm.
that a natural transition for folks, or is that something else that just kind of interested you?
I had not been interested in it until I had a session from an amazing woman in Seattle. I was up there
Mm.
visiting my family, and she was a shaman
Oh,
and a
wow.
Reiki master, and also performed sound healing. And
Mhm.
when she placed those Tibetan bowls on my body and rubbed them a certain way,
Uh-huh.
it's like a cellular massage. It goes way beyond just the tangible. It's
Uh-huh.
in the energy of your cells. And I just felt like I was vibrating for like 2 days afterwards.
Oh,
That's how
wow.
I felt. And I think it's because of my spiritual practice and meditation and things of
Mhm.
doing my best to be present. Although again, because I had that experience, I was like, wow, other people would love this too that
Okay.
aren't
Okay.
familiar. So I actually went back to her a year later and took one of her sound healing courses.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'm
Oh,
all about learning from the source. I I don't have bowls off of eBay or anything like that. I actually purchased bowls from the East West bookstore in Seattle, and they directly work with uh, Tibetan monks in Nepal to
mhm.
order to get the bowls, and
Oh, wow.
their buyer works in the store. And so that's his family over in Nepal. So it's like, okay,
Ah,
that's a good source. I know where it's coming from. I know the intention of how they create the bowls, and it's just an amazing thing. So, and
wow.
that's also how I learned the biodynamic breath work. I was working with individuals in correctional facilities here in Iowa, in both men and women prisons.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was going in teaching about wellness. And I was just teaching a simple box breathing. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Mhm.
where you breathe in for 4 and you hold it
Uh-huh.
for 4, breathe out
Uh,
for 4 and you hold
uh,
it.
uh-huh.
And they had never experienced that before. And when they came out of it, they were just, what just happened?
Oh,
And
wow.
I believe, with the energy and with people, as we are in the womb, Jamie, we're experiencing, we're really receiving from our
I
mothers.
agree. I do. I agree.
And if the mother is not in a safe situation or in that fight, flight, freeze of hand to mouth, I don't know when I'm going to get, money or
Yeah.
have my needs met, then the baby's feeling the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these people that I was supporting, like that was the first time that they ever felt being in the parasympathetic nervous system,
Mhm.
being in that safe space. And
Mm.
one participant, and it was very surprising to me, then I realized why though. I asked, "How does that feel to you?" I asked everybody, "What was that
Mhm.
experience like?" And they're still in prison, right? And they say, "Oh, I'm feeling very relaxed. I haven't felt this relaxed ever,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
without drugs, basically."
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
they said.
Right.
And then one gentleman said, "This scares me because feeling this relaxed, then I feel like something bad's going to happen because he let his
Oh,
guard down, right?"
right. Oh, wow.
And so at first I just thought about that. I was like, wow. I said, well, thank you for your transparency and thank you for your vulnerability to participate in that exercise with me. I don't take it lightly. And then after I walked away, a couple days later, it just kind of hit me. It's like, oh, it makes sense because of how people are raised and what they
Right.
received, from
Right.
it's really the generational trauma. It's the generational trauma that's passed down. So being that said, it's just amazing with the breath work. So that biodynamic breath work and trauma release system, it does work with that sympathetic nervous system. But the most important, Jamie, is about people having that safe space. And I like to think of myself as an external resource for people.
Yeah,
That,
absolutely.
that they
Yeah.
can feel safe, they feel that they're being supported, and there's no judgment. They show up as they are, and being able to breathe and have it, it's a very simple connected breath in through the nose and out through the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
not the holotropic where people are like, and they're getting out of
Right.
their
Right. Yeah.
bodies,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that really activates the sympathetic nervous system. That re-traumatizes some people, actually.
I
This
could.
is,
I'd make sense. It
yeah,
does.
yes.
So
So,
you went and do so when you were in the prisons, you
mhm.
were doing sessions on breath work, or you were like teaching a class on
Yeah, I was
how
teaching.
to
Yeah.
to do the breath work. So that gives them something to work on to do when you're not there.
Correct. And when they returned, they were returning citizens. So they had work programs and they
Ah,
were going to be released. So having all that overwhelm of, meeting with their probation officer, finding housing, finding a
okay.
job, they have a very small window, like three
Ah,
months to get
right,
everything set up. And so for them to have resources such as understanding box breathing,
right.
or even EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is
Mm-hmm.
tapping,
Mm-hmm.
or even I taught them a very quick, easy grounding. I call it breathing through your feet. Of you can do it anywhere, just pausing, bringing yourself back when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And where are my feet right now? Where is my breath? Can I
Ah,
pretend that I'm taking a nice deep breath up through my feet, all the way up to the top of my head, and then release that back down,
wow.
just to bring them back into their bodies, because there's so much, and this is for anyone really,
Mm-hmm.
so much out there that can distract us and overwhelm us, get us out of our bodies.
How do you know? So you have some listeners, people who aren't sure. What is it? What would I be experiencing if I'm not in my body? And
Uh,
you want to get back in my body. How would a listener how would we know when we're out of our body? What are some symptoms, some signs of that?
Well, it's the scattered thoughts, right? Scattered thinking, maybe brain fog, maybe it's that overwhelm that you feel that there's just so much pressure,
Mm.
on your shoulders, on your back. It can be even disassociating, like at work, especially at work, when people are, so funneled in
Mm-hmm.
screens and things,
Uh-huh.
and not realizing that the breath is so shallow. We're going to breathe up here in our upper chest when we're in that
Uh-huh.
sympathetic nervous system. So breathing down into the lower lobes, into the belly, and just visualizing, okay, I'm bringing my energy back into my body. If you're a visual person, if you're not, then just even, okay, I'm taking a deep breath in, count of 5, and a longer breath out, count of
Mm-hmm.
7.
Mm-hmm.
And then focusing on the feet. Can I feel the temperature of the desk? Can I
Ah,
feel the temperature of my skin?
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and then just noticing how there's just a little shift, that's all. We don't need
Okay.
to have some big, huge moment
Right.
or see rainbows and unicorns or anything like that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's subtle, very subtle. And the more we can do that, right? It's the drop in the bucket. The more we can remember to bring ourselves back into our bodies, then we're actually carving out new neural pathways in the physical brain.
Mm.
You know, this is what neuroplasticity is. This is how we build emotional intelligence. And that's what I love to also talk about.
Wow, wow. So when you're that breath and concentrating on your feet, and is that also part of that grounding as well?
Mhm.
What's kind of your definition? What would you tell people who are listening and never heard of grounding? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I am so used to using all these terms and things, so I really do appreciate you bringing back.
Yeah.
Grounding is being present in the space that you're in. It is being able to feel where you're at. So this is why I talk about the feet, right? Our feet are on the ground, we're
Mhm.
receiving energy, we're earth beings.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's science that shows, you know, how we connect with the earth. And when we can be grounded, go outside, you know, put your feet in the grass. That's also talking about earthing as well. That's also part of grounding too. So
Mm, yeah.
just being really focused on being present and grounded, feeling the weight of your body, maybe even.
Wow. Wow. That's yeah, I like that because I think sometimes we hear some of these terms and people are like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Or, and so I like that with the grounding, with that breath work, bringing you back to the present.
Yes.
So I like that. Now the I want to read this right. The bio, what do you call that? Biodynamic
Biodynamic breath
breath
work.
work. Uh is that something you teach? Or is this like, do you have clients with your biodynamic breath work?
Yes, yes. So it can be taught in a group session of having an experience, right, with the
Okay.
biodynamic breath work. And that actually, with the biodynamic breath work, it works with 6 elements. So, of course, the breath, then there is sound,
Okay.
and there's touch. So sound is your own voice. You know, we tend to hold everything here. We don't
Uh-huh.
express our own voice. We don't
Okay.
let that to release, right? And also
Okay.
sound is music as well, we use with biodynamic breath work. Then there's touch, right? There's healing in touch.
Okay.
So
Yep.
even virtually, I teach my clients how to touch into different pressure points, how to
Hmm.
breathe and move the body to
Okay.
open up the fascia, to
All
open up
right.
that
Mhm.
connected tissue
Mhm.
between
Mhm.
the muscles,
Oh,
because
wow.
that's where we hold our emotions. Science has shown that now.
Oh, wow.
Emotions are held between the fascia and even memory. And it's pretty incredible. The trauma does, right? It's the memories
Right.
of the trauma.
Yes.
And so then also there is emotional release, right? When we might have some maybe anger come up, we might have laughter, we could have tears, whatever that is, just allowing those emotions to flow through
Mm.
really helps, right? Because we tend to hold everything in because we don't feel safe because of the traumatic experience that we've
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then it's meditation too. I end with integration, which is a meditation, and that's where I add my secret sauce of Reiki. I ask my
Ah.
clients, you know, are you open to Reiki? Right? This is even more of a support for you.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
I have a Bali retreat coming up, and people might think it's a little early, but it's coming up in October 11th through the 17th of 2026.
And
And
what's
the
that
reason,
about? What's your retreat?
yeah, so the retreat is about founded upon the BBTRS, the biodynamic breath work and trauma
Oh,
release.
wow.
So it's a, a group session where there's so
Okay.
much healing. You know, when you have a group of
Yes,
people,
that energy. Yes,
amplifies the
yes,
healing.
yes.
And the human connection, that's what we're really craving, is the human connection to where we can be seen, heard, and valued. So
Wow.
we have that, and then we have meditations that we do. We have dancing. We go to a waterfall tour. You know, I break it up because I'm all about the culture of wherever I'm at. I
Yeah,
want to see the people. I want to taste the food. I want
right.
to go to the shrines and temples and things.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what we do in this wonderful Bali experience. And I see the thing up there.
Is that the first time you've done
No,
this in
this will
Bali?
be the
Oh,
second.
no.
Yeah.
This is
Last November we went. And so when people go to my website, they're going to see a video there. And it is of
oh,
people's experiences. It's pretty amazing.
oh my
Um, and
gosh.
we really take a holistic approach. And just even the Gaia Oasis retreat center that we're at is
Uh-huh.
very holistic. Very
Oh,
holistic.
wow.
It's on the northern shore of Bali, and you're right on the beach.
Oh
And
my
the
gosh.
food is locally sourced. All the people that work on the resort have been there for decades. We're talking family members and cousins, and everybody knows each other. It's you feel like family
Oh,
when you're there. It's
that
so
sounds
beautiful.
wonderful. Is there a cap on the number of people? Do
Mhm.
you intentionally keep that
Yes.
a small group? So
Yes.
what size group is that?
I work with people in an intimate setting. So at the maximum 22 people.
Okay. Okay.
Usually these types of retreats, people, there's like 30, 40 people.
Uh-huh.
That retreat center can accommodate 35, but I like it simple. I like it intimate. I want people to feel safe,
Yeah.
create those
Yeah.
bonds with other people
Yeah.
and have that experience, because that's again the beauty of being in a space like that.
Okay. And
Yeah.
is the day with you all day? Is it broken up, class in the morning, afternoon
Yes.
free? Like how
Yes,
do you
exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly what it is. It's in the morning, we come together, we do Osho meditation. That's a movement meditation. So we're with music. We're
Okay.
moving, we're breathing with music, and it's to get us out of this.
Okay.
It's to
Okay.
switch things up and to, because the mind, is always in control of the
Yeah,
things. And
yeah,
so when
yeah.
we can switch it up a little bit, shake things up.
Okay.
People are like, "What is this all about?" But afterwards, they're like, "Wow, that was amazing." And then in the afternoon, there is a break, and because it's a restorative um, retreat,
Mhm.
I'm actually gifting spa sessions there. They have a spa on the resort,
Oh
so you can
my
get a
god.
massage, you could get a wrap. Uh,
Oh.
and it's like authentic Bali stuff. It's not
Oh
some
my gosh.
ritzy spa, it's like you are in this amazing canopy, bamboo, birds are singing out. You're in the jungle area.
Right,
It's
right.
just gorgeous. So
Oh,
if
wow.
people are into that, if they want a real experience and get to know themselves better,
Yeah.
please check out that Bali
Oh,
retreat.
that yeah.
And the early bird, I have an early bird discount that ends this October.
Okay.
So we really want to get people booked in, ready to
Right.
go.
Right.
And then I send monthly emails. And then the closer we get, then it's, of course, every week, just to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
people ready. And we take care of everything. So if people haven't ventured outside of the States
Yeah,
or
yeah.
across that far, we got you covered.
What
And
a cool. Now, is this the only retreat you've done is Bali? Have you gone anywhere else?
I have hosted a restorative, a purposefully driven women retreat, and that was in San Diego. And I did that
Oh,
last
wow.
February.
Okay.
And that was
Okay.
more about tuning into your intuition. It incorporated Reiki and breath work also.
Okay. Okay.
And it was lovely, but that was in Southern California. So
Oh,
Bali is
wow.
definitely my go-to. I'm a little selfish in a good way. It's like, I want to go to Bali again and have this experience. Yeah.
Wow, that would be fun. How far, what's a plane ride to Bali? What is that? I'm sure that's a day or two travel. What
It's
is that? Where do you fly out of to Bali?
Oh, you could fly out of
New York.
LA, you could fly out of Chicago, you could,
Okay.
any major airport.
Okay. Okay.
Although depending on which side of the country you
Yeah.
leave from,
Yeah.
it was 32 hours for me, but I had a layover in Taiwan, which
Oh my
was
God.
really nice because that airport was fabulous. They have a spa there where you can take a shower, you can get a massage, you can get a
Oh my
buffet.
God.
I mean, international airports, besides America,
Uh-huh.
they are amazing. Our
Yeah.
our airports are really lacking. They really are. So that's part of the experience, right? That's part of the journey. And also I set up a private portal in my website to where people can find a travel buddy. People can
Ah,
travel
that's
together.
cool.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, do you find that that's a good mix? Is it mostly women
Well, we've
at
had
the
women
retreats?
and men.
Okay.
But
Wow.
majority, I would say 2/3 women and a
Okay.
third men.
Okay.
And the men who are interested in this, of course, are very safe. They're very
Yeah.
safe. We do one-on-one phone calls. We talk
Yeah.
to our guests. What is it that is calling to you for this Bali retreat?
Okay.
Here's what to expect. We don't want any surprises.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the accommodations, they are, roomed with, the same gender.
Right. Right.
So, or you could get your own private accommodation.
Oh, wow.
But
Wow.
that's also, you have to coordinate that. That's extra, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
that sounds wow. That sounds amazing.
it
That
is
would be
absolutely
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
Well, I highly recommend people if they're ever in the Des Moines area to get a Reiki session with you. I'm gonna have to try the sound healing. Now that really intrigues me because I really do like I've even gone to YouTube and done the Tibetan singing bowls, like
Mhm.
for meditation or while going to bed and just a kind of a relaxing. So I really want to try the sound healing. I think that's important. And I box breathing, I've learned a couple of mentors I've had about a discipline in mediumship called sitting in the power. And they're
Mm.
very big about box breathing with sitting in the power. So that's how I'm familiar with that. You're a wealth of information. Thank you so much. People, please, I promise you, don't be a skeptic like me, but be open and really try this. Now, it's interesting also before we go, you said you can do Reiki distance. Is that the same with the sound healing? Or I know you talked about the bowls being on you. Is that something that can be done distant as well?
It can, just as you experience like watching YouTube and listening to the bowls,
Uh huh.
although my microphone doesn't have that capability. You need a
Okay.
real special microphone to
Okay.
capture that frequency, to the
Okay.
quality, right? It's about the
Okay.
quality. and the frequency. So in person, that's how I support people with the sound healing. But Reiki, definitely virtually, and the biodynamic breath work and trauma release
Okay.
system. I offer a
Wow.
complimentary session for the BBTRS session
Okay.
just to
Okay.
see if it's a good fit for someone, because
Okay.
it does take a little bit to get used to that breathing, right? To feel
Yeah.
comfortable, to be in that space and witness what's happening in your body at the same time.
Right. Right. Wow.
So that's
Wow.
why I offer that the first session complimentary. And as you asked Jamie about the series, with Reiki, does it have? Is it one? Is it a package? With
Hmm.
the biodynamic breath work, it is a package, because what we're doing is we're working through the different belts of tension that is
Ah.
aligned with the chakra system. So
Okay.
that helps
Okay.
to open up different areas of the body as we
Right.
work from the top down.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, yeah, I encourage everyone to like I said, if they're ever in Des Moines, get a session, reach out distance wise. Also, don't forget, if you're interested in getting more information from April, her podcast, Living with Intention. So that's another way to reach out, and maybe if you want to dig a little deeper or learn a little bit more, people can get that from your podcast. You talk about
Oh,
different
yes.
things, but
All the
yeah,
things.
yeah. So I thank
And
you.
watch Jamie's episode on my
Oh
podcast,
yeah,
Spirit
there you go.
Spirit
So
Speaks. Yeah, it was a really good one, and she gave
well,
readings, live readings during
yeah,
that
I
time, so
remember that. Well,
it
thank
was
you
good.
so much, April, for being here. I appreciate it. I thank everyone for tuning in. Go to my YouTube channel, Spotify, and I will see you next time.
Keep living with intention.
There you go.